this is Charlie. This is about James Randi and his pathetic offer, because why I say that is the biggest joke in paranormal history, and why I say that I'm sticking up for the mediums there, the way he's knocked the mediums and stuff like that, and I'll get to the point that James Randi will never prove there's not life after death. He will never prove it, but the mediums have proved it, but why I say, people say, well, our mediums proved it. Well, the mediums have proved it. I mean, even myself, and I've said to people and given reasons and say, have you been going through a bad time at the moment, and you're due to get married, and you're gonna meet someone. You will get married in the future, and you meet someone called John or James or whatever. I mean, now that's fair enough, and all you people say, do you say to yourself, I mean, even the likes of Sylvia Brown and Doris Stokes, who's worked for the FBI and you've solved murders, you've found people, I've even found missing people and stuff like that. What you should say to yourself is, where does this information come from? How could you predict the future? I'll let you think for a minute. Now, that's why James Randi, we can't prove that that's life after death, and James Randi knows that, he makes things up that's all sorts of guesswork or whatever, impossible, people have predicted everything, mediums all over the world. There's a lot of cons, there isn't cons in a lot of professions, but that's why James Randi knows, and he's a good man, he's a sly man, we'll say good then, a very cunning man, and he knows, and he even said to someone, I will always find a way out of not paying the money to anyone, because he's picked a subject where he knows he can't prove it. I'm talking about a medium, not other psychic rubbish, he knows that, and the mediums won't go in for the challenge because they can't prove that it's life after death. But then again, all I say to people when I give them information and I hit things on the nail, they go, wow, that's it. How did you know that? And I say to them at the end, just think about it. Where does this information come from? The only way James Randi will actually believe, or skeptic people, is if you see a ghost for theirself, and people have all over the world, But even if James Randi or these skeptic people did see a ghost, they're not going to tell anybody. James Randi definitely wouldn't anyway, because he's got no money, and he wouldn't pay out the money even if he had it, because the way he's worked it, he knows that, like I said, I might be repeating myself here, that psychic people can't prove there's life after death, only if there was a ghost standing right next to him. That's it. James Randi's conditions to do with psychic people, it's designed to fool and con and mislead the public, that's basically it, that's why it's the biggest joke in paranormal history. Like I said, the only way a mediums can prove it to people is with messages, because no one's going to see a ghost. There's reasons for why you see a ghost, and the only way mediums can prove there's life after death is giving messages out to people, and this is where James Randi, But I'll leave it at that. You know my point. James Randi will never prove there's not life after death. He will never prove it. But mediums have proved it with detail of predicting the future. They've done it. Not all the mediums are cons, you know. But you all should say to yourself, and I'll leave you with that point, is where does this information come from? Know what I mean? I say that a lot, don't I? You know what I mean? Never mind. It's because I'm a scouser, you know. But think about it. Where does this information come from? You know, I'll leave it at that anyway. But James Randi is a very good conning man. Really is. And he's made a career himself out of all this. You know, very good man. A very good conning man. Anyway, you want to get a bit more detail, you people. You want to go to the lawyer of the skeptic. Put that in your search engine. You know. But you should all say to yourself, skeptic and non-skeptic, and you should say, where does this information come from? It comes from the spiritual world. That's where it comes from. You know, and be open-minded about it. All you skeptic people, don't comment on something and be an arsehole like James Randi. You know what I mean? Be open-minded. You haven't got no option at all but to be open-minded. You learn when you're open-minded. You don't learn when you're not. You know, being judge and jury like James Randi, it's pathetic. Really is. Anyway, bye-bye for now. But think about it. Where does the information come from when mediums can predict the future? You know, James Randi hasn't predicted nothing. Only that he's a conning idiot. I mean, I'll just finish with this. I mean, James Randi and, you know, Uri Geller, for instance, you know, he made a career for himself, and he got known through bending spoons and making out he was psychic. You know, the thing is, the point I'm getting to, it doesn't matter how Uri Geller made his career, by being a magician or whoever. Why I say this is because James Randi is a real evil man. To actually knock Uri Geller, you know, and ruin or try to ruin his career, you know, through making out that he was better than him. You know, James Randi was a magician. He used to mislead people just like Uri Geller did. What's wrong with that? What is wrong with it? James Randi is a real evil man. I'd rather have Uri Geller any day. You know, I really would. He made a career for himself, Uri Geller, just like James Randi did. You know, James Randi is an evil man to wreck people's careers and just to get a career for himself. I'll leave it at that anyway. But all you people think though, open-minded. You can't do anything else. Bye-bye. God bless.